Okay, billions of dollars sloshing around in the world economy has nothing to do with what's most important. Here is a particular rich man. I found this on it was a German documentary about the crash in Asia of 1997. Let me show this briefly. Here's what the man says. It's not my responsibility, the social and economic consequences of the actions I do. So he wants money, which is, personal opinion, pretty stupid of him. And he doesn't care about the people who he hurts. What is the first and second commandment? Love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor yourself. If you love money, first of all, are you loving your neighbors yourself? N-O. Okay, so anyway, here's this video.
I think that I've been blamed for everything. I am basically there to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do.
Okay, so that was from 25 years ago, okay? And he has gone on, he made billions of dollars and stuff like that. He's then used that money for political things to try to do as much change in the world, not just in America, but in a wide variety of countries. Okay, well, his future reward is waiting for him. One project that's needed that would probably cost about $5 million to do, and it would cost, once it's created, it would cost less than $1 million to upkeep, would be a quality-free children's blocking software for the internet. I was recently looking for some homeschooling friends, what's out there, and I thought that the selections were better than they are. The selections aren't actually that good. The best one, it looks like, is one that costs like $14 or $15 a month. And I was very unpleasantly surprised that that is the case. It would cost probably $5 million or maybe $7 million, not much more than that, to make a quality blocking software that could then help parents to protect their children from violence and pornography and other things on the internet. Tens of millions of children. So we're talking a dime for 10 cents each, if you could write, or a nickel, for souls to be protected from things on the internet that only adults should be allowed to see. Once a person has enough years on the planet, they've got filters, or they can assimilate that, some of the violent or the horror or the things. You don't want that children to be exposed to it. There is some ministries, okay, so that's a project. I mentioned these books, Scott Lively's book, The Pink Swastika, or The Beautiful Side of Evil, and there's others out there. For that, you're talking about, thousands of dollars. For this thing, this is not trivial. But once it's made and it exists, and you could have different versions, 4 to 8 years old, or 4 to 6 years old, 7 to 9 years old, 10 till 12 years old. I mean, you could have, and the parents could decide at what level they want things blocked, and then this child is going to be mostly safe from things on the internet, whereas right now they're not. You have a 10-year-old boy who could children are naturally curious about the adult world. Of course they are. They could find things on the internet, and what do you do with that? How do you process that? How does a child handle that? Do you understand? Okay, I know you understand what I'm saying. There's some ministries out there that have a lot of money. There's a whole bunch of them. ECFA, I mentioned them once before. You can look up modern ministries if they subscribe to or under ecfa.org. You can look up a ministry to see where they're at budget-wise and stuff, and how much money. There are several of them, a bunch of them. They're between $50 and $100 million each. Why would they have that money? I wouldn't want that much money and do nothing with it. Now you're going to die. You're going to go back to God. Yeah, Christians, for estate planning or whatever it was, donated $2 million or $5 million or whatever it was, and then we did nothing with it. We set it in bank accounts, waited 10 years until a dictator took over in America, and then for some reason it all got taken away from us. We don't know how that could have happened. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you could see it coming. How could you not see it coming? And they can't. They're going to answer for it. 50. There's 2 ministries I know of that have $500 million. How much money is that? $500 million. That's a lot of money. How many houses can you buy? I mean, that's a lot of money. $500 million. There's 2 of them. I'm going to mention them here. Okay, Luke 12:48b. Too much is given, much will be required. Okay. Also, 1 Timothy 6:10. The love of money. Notice the emphasis on this. The love of money. Many have departed or fallen. Okay, this is, one could contend this is for believers. There's many ministries out there that put money first. We got to keep the donors happy. We got to keep them happy. Well, who is your master? No man can serve 2 masters. Is it money or is it God? The Sanhedrin. This was the elect. I shouldn't say elect, but the not elected, but the ultimate leaders, Jewish chief priests and rabbis, Pharisees, Sadducees over Israel. The Sanhedrin, they fell. They didn't even recognize the Messiah when they saw him. Harvard University, originally in I think 1620, about 1625, something like that. It was a seminary to train men in the scriptures to become pastors. Let's see. Going back then in time, I mentioned it's easy at the very beginning. I mentioned it's easy to become a Satan worshiper. John the Baptist, he mentions the Pharisees. He calls them brood of vipers. Brood of vipers, you children of the serpent, or you generation of vipers. Vipers. This is a technical term. That's a very strong term. This is not an insult. It's in Matthew 3:7 and Luke 3:7, where it's recorded that John the Baptist said this. Jesus several times refers to the Pharisaical leaders and the Sadducees. He says, let's see, John 8:44, your father is the devil. Wow. At the end of Matthew 23 is the chapter where Jesus says, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. And at the end of that chapter, he says, who is going to save you from the damnation to come? I mean, these people, they should have just fallen on their faces right then. They didn't have enough wisdom to do that. Anyway, over time, okay, coming back to modern times, church denominations fall over time. And then God keeps rising up new people, new congregations, who believe his word, and then eventually they fall, which is tragic, but that happens. When I lived in Berkeley, California for 5 years. I've told you that before. There are 8 seminaries associated with what's called the Graduate Theological Union. Just north of the UC Berkeley campus, it's up a hill, and they call it Holy Hill. That's the nickname for it. And you've got a big library right at the focus, right at the apex up there. It's a good library, got a lot of neat stuff in there. But there's 8 seminaries. 7 are physically located in Berkeley, in that area, on Holy Hill. 1 is in San Francisco, but it is part of the GTU. 3 Catholic, let's see, Benedictine, Jesuit, Dominican. 3 Protestant, I don't remember exactly. Okay, that's 3, that's 6. Unitarian, and then Pacific School of Religion. So altogether it's 8 religious learning institutions. During my 5 years in Berkeley, I wrote to and sometimes tried to make other contact with the professors. And I would go once or twice a year. I learned where their inboxes were in the different seminaries. So I would go in, you go in with a stack of papers like you own the place, right? And then you start putting the invitations into their inboxes to let them know about an upcoming event, or offer them free information on creation, offer them a free video or book to teach that the Bible really is true. These are seminary professors. They should know this, and yet none of them were interested. I never met a single saved professor at any of those 8 seminaries. I never did. I had a couple of them write to me like angrily, like they defend evolution and stuff like that, and I'm like, so you're believing this temporary deception of evolution over the Word of God? How do you think God's going to treat you on Judgment Day? Anyway, I wrote back to them and tried to be respectful to the person, but that their beliefs were so far away from Scripture. Okay, Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. This is one of 2 ministries that I know of that has $500 million. People will have estate planning and then they'll sometimes donate a major portion of their estate to BGEA, Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Billy Graham became famous in the late 40s. His first book, this is a first edition copy of Peace with God. You probably can't see that, that's fine. 1953, Peace with God. Let's see if I can find here. Peace with God by Billy Graham. Okay? Maybe, hopefully you can see that. Billy Graham, 1953. And it's a full book. You can see that. It's actually, I have not read the whole thing. It's a pretty good book. Good standard Christian doctrines. The Christian way of life from a Protestant perspective. How we should live. What God expects of us. How we should conduct ourselves. This book was translated into over 30 languages. Translated, proofread, typeset, published in over 30 languages. Okay? I need to... Okay. I know these episodes are too long. So I have two web pages, creationism.org, which is in about 100 languages, and then paulzilla.org, okay? I mentioned I had the nickname in Europe of Honest Abe. That was just a nickname that people gave me, okay? Abramson last name. But Paulzilla then was one I had in Japan. Okay. Why am I mentioning Japan here? Let's see. Excuse me. Okay, so creationism.org is in about 100 languages. Then paulzilla.org, which is where these Give Lives are on. I'm always looking for quality Bible-based information in other languages because I want to link to it. I don't want to take it from them. I'm not looking for credit from people. I'm looking to link to stuff. About 15 years ago, whenever it was, it dawned on me one day, wait a minute, Billy Graham went everywhere. Billy Graham spoke in over 100 countries. 100 countries, and every time when there'd be other other languages, he'd have one or two pastors flanking him, and his words, his message, his testimony to call people to the gospel would then be translated, simultaneously translated into these other languages. It was often broadcast on radio or on TV in that country. Here's a picture. I have to find it. I know I have it in my one of my computers. I'll have to find it. But this is Billy Graham in Korea, South Korea. He has a man standing next to him, a Korean man, a pastor presumably, who is then translating, and you can see the huge crowd, hundreds of thousands of people out in this open air thing. To one side, I believe it's as we're looking at the picture, you see a stand with cameras. And then to the other side, you see another stand with cameras. Some are still cameras, some are movie or TV cameras. So in South Korea, this was an event. Hundreds of thousands of people went in person. It was probably on the radio or TV. If you ever in America went to a Billy Graham crusade or Billy Graham talk, he had literature they give to people who would make a decision for Christ. You had literature. You did like an 8-page booklet or a 12-page booklet teaching the beginnings of Christianity for people. Okay, so it occurred to me about, 15 years ago, whenever it was, wait a minute, where is all this stuff? Where are all these videos? Where are the books? This was translated. Peace with God was translated into 30 languages. Where are they? Where are they? Why are they out of print? It's not like Billy Graham Evangelistic Association needs more money in order to put them back in print. They have $500 million. If $500 million, if you were just using it at 7% per year, because you wanted to make sure, we need to keep $500 million in reserve. Why? Anyway, if you're using it at 5% or 7% per year, which is an interest rate you can attain, that would be $35 million a year for projects. I have a funny feeling they could put these things back in print. For years, every couple of years, I would write to BGEA, multiple ways, either by email or by letter, offering for free to make these videos available, to digitize videos of Billy Graham speaking in all these countries, in being translated into Arabic, into Swahili, into all these different languages, into Cambodian, Khmer, all these different languages in the world. And I know these videos exist. Where are they? When I visited Charlotte in the Carolinas, when I visited there at the Billy Graham, the museum, the library or whatever, I actually told them, I was able actually to get through. When a Christian bureaucrat came out. I need to finish this up, but I'm so disappointed. This is tragic, and I'm sorry I'm making this public, this appeal. But where is all this material? Where is it? Anyway, this man came out, and he had this nice clothes on, hair done just so, Christian bureaucrat. Had like a notebook and a Bible or whatever he had with him to talk to me and stuff like that. And then that led to a second man coming and talking to me, and for a half hour or whatever or something. It didn't lead anywhere. Anyway, where are all these materials? If it cost $2,000, you don't even have to put the book back in print. Just make it available online. The pages, all you got to do is scan them in. We're talking $100 or 200 or 500. Nothing. If that led to 10 more souls coming into God's kingdom, isn't that worth it? How? Why? Okay. Harvard fell. The Sanhedrin fell. The Catholic Church fell 500 years ago at the time of the Reformation. They were selling indulgences. That was the official church at the time. Human institutions fall. Well, I fear that both BGEA and Crew have within them Christian people, Christian-looking people who are not Christians. Why would you want $500 million and you're doing nothing with it? And then you get your hand out. If you'd like to speak with one of our estate planning specialists, please contact this person here. Oh, hello, how are you? Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Oh, you're getting up in years? Well, it is so wonderful for you to call. Oh, yes, we need more money. We need more money. We only have $500 or $600 million. Your $3 million estate will help the cause of Christ so much. No, it won't. It'll go in some bank account. It'll sit there for a decade, for 5 or 10 years, and then when America falls into dictatorship, which is sooner rather than later, it'll be confiscated. Sorry for raising my voice. The lack of wisdom. Would you please pray for wisdom? Wisdom is the principal thing. Okay, now, so BGA, that's my beef with them. I've given up trying to write to them. I did it so many times. I would write to the grandchildren. 4 of the 5, they're older than me. 4 of the 5, they're in different parts of the country. I only ever heard from one. One of the 2 daughters, there were 3 daughters, 2 sons. One of the daughters turned away from Christ. So there's 2 daughters, 2 sons that were Christians. I wrote to all of them multiple times. Billy Graham Evangelist. I wrote to everyone I could think of. I did hear from one of the daughters. She didn't get it. She's an American. I mean that in a negative way. Americans often think English only. Why don't they just learn American? Learn American. Speak English, why don't you? I'm speaking English. How come they don't understand me? Okay, so BGEA. Okay. Just put the already existing works online. I would have done it for you for free. What I asked for was a sofa or a floor to sleep on and access to a kitchen. That's what I asked for. And in 6 months, watch what I could do. Let me turn me loose. I mean, I'm experienced with this. I have a webpage in 100 languages. I know how to deal with the... Okay. Sorry, I need to calm down. I'm sorry I'm so upset. Okay, Crew. Campus Crusade for Christ. It used to be called Campus Crusade for Christ. Okay, Crew. The Jesus film. I like the Jesus film. I recommend it. You heard me recommend it here in this episode. I've recommended it several times. I buy these by the case at 100 at a time. It's $1 each. $1 or $1.50 each. But I want people to be empowered, to realize, to be able to picture who Jesus was and is, how he affects our lives, who we need to then try to become like. Okay, so about a year ago, so I have people try to destroy my webpage, particularly creationism.org. I've had not just regular hackers, but also government entities in different parts of the world try to get in. They don't want the gospel spread. They don't, whatever thing I've said that's offensive to them. I have more videos in Arabic, Christian videos. I have more Christian videos in Arabic than anyone else in the world. I'm sorry if I sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I mean, I have content on creationism.org. Go there and look around. What are some languages you know? Do you know any Croatian? Do you know any Romanian? Do you know Swahili? Do you know Khmer, which is Cambodian? Do you know Russian? I have got lots of information for you for free, or I link to where you can get more information. Okay, so Crew, when you go to their webpage, and you go in, it's fine stuff. Okay, so I have lots of security, so I can tell when a website is trying to take me off of their website onto other things. Okay, it's just part of the security I have. Well, I noticed something on Cru's webpage. If you're there going around, you're doing stuff, but when you hit the Jesus film, when you start watching the Jesus film, it turns on a notification to Facebook, Google, and Twitter. Why does Facebook need to know that I'm watching the Jesus film? Why would Twitter want to know? Why would Google be interested in knowing that I'm watching the Jesus film? Why is that interesting to them? Okay, in America, it is not dangerous, for the most part, at least not yet, to watch the Jesus film. But in some countries of the world, they might kill you for that. Here's Cru notifying Facebook, Google, and Twitter. I'm sorry. Can you think about the consequences? Do you realize the consequences? Are they working for Satan? They think they're not. They think they're working for God. But if someone starts watching the Jesus film on the webpage in any of the 2,000 languages that it's in, that's pretty impressive. It turns it on. Facebook knows, Google knows, Twitter knows. It probably also knows exactly how many minutes of it. Did you watch the whole thing? Did you skip through it? Stuff like that. Now, let's say we're in Sudan. So in America, it's not dangerous to watch, at least not yet, to have watched the Jesus film or go to other Christian websites and stuff. Let's say we're in Sudan or North Korea or Pakistan or Iran or any of the bunch of other countries. And once every 2 or 3 months, they pay $50 or $100 to Facebook or Twitter or Google or something. We'd like to know all the IP addresses from our country that watched the Jesus film in the last couple months. We need to know who these people are. Then they sell them. Bam, 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 bam. Here you go. For $100 or $200 or $500 or $50 or whatever they're paying. They find out. And so, that, okay, right? Because Cru has turned that on, is allowing that to happen. Do you understand? People are being killed, they're being tortured and killed. Cru is causing people, new young Christian, they could be causing new Christians to be tortured and killed. Okay, so you watch the Jesus film, you come to know that Christ is not just a prophet, but Jesus is the Messiah of the world. You teach your wife, you teach your children. And then 2 months later, Ahmed! Ahmed! Open up! And he opens the door, and here's the police coming in. Where is your wife? Where are your children? Get his computer. You're coming with us. You're just about to sit down for dinner. Don't worry about that. Turn the stove off. Come with us. Handcuff him. Come with us. Oh, you don't know why. You don't know why, do you? Yeah, we'll see about that. Bring his children. But the little girl's crying. Too bad. Tie her hands up too. Bring them all down to our van downstairs. Take them to the police station. Ahmed, why don't you tell us what you did? What did you do? Why are you here? The longer you pretend that you don't know, the worse it's going to be for you. What have you done that would have upset us? What do you think you have done? Oh, okay. Bring his son in. Bring his son in here. Let's see if maybe his son, if we start working over his son. Folks, do you understand what I'm saying? This is real. This is part of the world. And who's selling them out is Cru. Okay, so a year ago, they got $500 million. They can't afford to hire one extra person. $500 million, not $500,000, $500 million to read a letter. So I sent a DVD. I'll put it online. Letter Cru. It happened to be almost exactly 1 year ago. This morning I was looking at it. Oh, that was 1 year ago. I wrote a letter to Cru telling them this danger. It's actually had 7 or 8 ideas which could help them, and I included a DVD, a 21-minute DVD letter to them, to Cru, and I sent it to their main address. Okay, but there was no check inside. My big mistake. They need more money. They need more money. They only have 500 or 600 million. Sorry if you're offended because I'm emphasizing that. And got no response, heard it back, waited a few weeks. Then I went to ECFA, found out who the heads of the crew is, and I wrote directly to those three, I believe it was all three men, three different men, I believe, and I wrote directly to them, again sending my letter along with the DVD. And then I got an email back from one of them, and here's what he said. This is not an exact quote. Yeah, it's just him typing an email here. Thanks for writing us a letter. Yeah, it's very important to us that you wrote to us, and we really value, when someone from another ministry writes to us. We could care less what you have to say. Bam! That's not what he said. What he said was be assured that we will, listen to your suggestions. They never listened to if they listened to my suggestions, they would have stopped telling Facebook, Google, and Twitter when people watch the Jesus film from anywhere in the world, right? If nothing else, they would have realized the danger and that they potentially are having Christians tortured to death. That the very ministry that's giving them the gospel is then this foreign government somewhere in North Korea or wherever it is. Do you know how they treat people in North Korea when they arrest them? They'll sometimes break their bones. They'll break the person's bone and put them back in the cell, and the bone never does heal right. Do you understand the tortures they do to these people? Okay, so that's my problem with the crew. So I will put a link to it on my webpage, paulzilla.org, letter LTR crew, and then I think the date is the name. I'll put it. So if you go to my webpage, paulzilla.org, give life, you'll find this. I'm sorry I got so excited. This is there's people who are doing Satan's bidding without realizing it. We need to hold each other accountable. I'm a little guy. I'm a nobody. I know that. I'm not a good public speaker. I know that. The problem is I know too much, or I've seen too much, and I try, and then if I see something wrong, I try to alert the ministry. I've actually made a nuisance of myself at a bunch of different ministries. If you know any creation ministries, you'll know that. I'm known out there. Okay, I want to end with a prayer and then the other things that I talked about. So I'm going to put the prayer here. If you agree with my prayer, please pray it with me, or amen at the end if you agree with my prayer. Otherwise, it'll be over in just a minute if you can suffer through it, okay? But I'm going to pray this, okay? So it's a time-delayed prayer, okay? Devotionals or other books sometimes have prayers in them that you can use as a model. Creator, thank you for making me. I ask for your help. Please show me your mercy. I ask for your forgiveness for my many sins against both you and others through Christ's death for us on the cross. I should have put that on there. Increase my faith, my love, and my wisdom. Please protect me from the many deceptions in the world. Amen. Okay, now I want to show you then I want to mention Paul Harvey again. There's a couple of repositories online where you can listen to or watch. No, there's actually a couple of videotape. Most are audio because he was on the radio. TROTS, The Rest of the Story. Paul Harvey. These are great, short things, just a few minutes long each, bite size. They're very interesting. But we're in danger of losing this, okay? Now, next thing, okay, so please consider going out there and watching or listening to a couple or a few of these. Next thing, Famous Monsters of Filmland, as I mentioned here, okay? And Uncle Forey knew everybody in science fiction, in fantasy, in monster movies and things like that. He knew everybody. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a couple of pictures with little captions. Hopefully it's kind of funny. It's part of our history. It's part of the 20th century things. Let me mention one thing here. Bill Cosby. I used to like Bill Cosby when I was a lot younger. And I believe it was one of his comedy skits. He loved the old monster movies. The Mummy is coming after you. Okay? Or Dracula, right? He's coming after you. Or Frankenstein or something. And he's saying the way they come at you, you could run away. You barely had enough time to run into the kitchen, make a sandwich, and then run out the back door. You barely had enough time to make a sandwich and run out the back door before the monster could catch up to you, right? Anyway, that was the way that the old classic monster movies were. Okay, now, classic cars. First one I want to mention, just briefly, is the Ford Mustang from the mid-1960s. I believe it was introduced in 64. Is that right? 64. 1964. So I'm going to get some pictures online. I'm going to show it to you in this book. I showed you this book at the beginning of this talk, okay? Hopefully you can see beyond the glare. That's why I turn it like this. Okay, then the Ford Mustang. So it was introduced in 64, 65, and 66. This was a hot car. This was a great car. I never owned one. But what a car, the Ford Mustang. It was just a small car with good engine, good traction, and good suspension that people bought. How many they just bought? From 600,000 were sold in 1966. That's a lot. That's a lot. You look at the total car market in America, this one model of car. And but by 1970, they kept making them bigger and bigger. Detroit likes to do that. The American auto manufacturers, what they like to do is they take something that works, that's good, that's a great size, and then they slowly make it bigger and bigger and bigger until it's no longer that car anymore. They call it the same name, but why can't they just leave it the same size and rather than making changes, make improvements? Anyway, okay, the Ford Mustang was such a classic car, such a great car in the 50s, 60s. Lee Iacocca was a vice president at Ford at this time, and it was just a popular car. It was introduced under him and under the whole Ford banner. Okay, so now, enough of that. Norman Rockwell. He was a painter, first half of the 20th century. This is just a collection. There's several of these types of books out there that are collections of his works. This is actually one of the smaller ones. It's only 100, or I think it's 102. 102 favorites, okay? So I'm just going to show this because if you've never seen this, it gives you an image of America at that time, of the American thinking of society, of culture. So this is from 1955. And it's called, oh, and there is a Norman Rockwell Museum online. It's nrm.org. That's Norman Rockwell Museum, nrm.org. It's and the physical museum is in Massachusetts. Okay, that's where it's at. So this is from June of 1955, called Marriage License. I don't want to violate copyrights, but I will, with my video camera, show this in a close photo so you can see it. The contrast between light and dark, the contrast between the young couple and the old man. There's a cat, there's a spittoon on the floor in the foreground with several cigarette butts around it like the guy keeps missing. There's an old stove in the light and the darkness. It's a very well done painting that just encapsulated the day this couple has gone to get a marriage license from some county somewhere, and then all the books in the background. Okay, now last thing, old Universal Newsreel. This is from, I think, 1944. I'm going to show you 3 minutes of it. It's part of a longer one, about 7 or 8 minutes long. It gives you the mood. Now this is wartime. This is wartime. So it's from the perspective of the Allies, of course, in particular British and American perspective, you could say. But the Soviet Union was also then with the Allies. Now, as I mentioned before, Stalin and Hitler were on the same side at World War II, at the beginning of World War II. They had signed a non-aggression pact. Many people have forgotten that today. No, the communists and the Nazis were on the same side. Evolution is foundation for atheism. Atheism then is a foundation for fascism, Nazism, communism. Nazis and the communists were on the same side until there's no, what is that thing? No honor among thieves. And so until Hitler betrayed Stalin and took it. Okay, so I'm going to end with this, okay? A universal newsreel. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Have a good day.
is Europe. This is the wall of the Nazi fortress. All the skill of a brutally great military and engineering people have gone into the construction of this wall. Today, boys from New York and London, from Seattle and Manchester, from Toronto and Montreal, from Marseille, Warsaw and Prague, from Narvik, and from thousands of other Allied homes are doing what Hitler and Napoleon dared not do: cross the waters of the English Channel and attack the fortified coast on the other side. The target is the German army and its leaders, who are probably not smiling today. In the hills of Persia last December, today's fighting on the coast of France was planned and put on the Allied calendar. In Britain, the dispossessed soldiery of Europe prepared for the voyage home. The Dutch, the Poles, the Czechs, the Norwegians remembering the bitter spring of 1940. From the New World came the Americans, and on their own soil, the British, who prepared for a different invasion 4 years ago. All waiting for the signal from the men who had beaten the German in Africa, Sicily and Italy, and were now turning their attentions to the Germans in the West.